Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled Where's the Rice? I, 15/16 of a year at that time, was with my mom and it was my first time going to a Costco-style store to get stuff for our convenience store, sold it in 2019. I was wearing a GRA-Y sweater, zip-up hoodie and had black mittens and a black beanie toque on since it was fall. My mom was telling me to get a cart so we could put things in it. I grabbed a cart and we went to the candy aisle. I was amused at how much things the store had. I was quickly putting things that my mom was telling me to grab and I quickly put it in the cart. I have OCD, but during that time I wasn't diagnosed yet. When I was putting the stuff in the cart, I was putting it neatly so there could be more room and it would look clean. I think I wanted to check other aisle of the store, and I was stopped by a father, 30 to 45 years old, and son, 4 to 5 years old I'm guessing. And I remember the father going, "Hi, excuse me, where's the rice?" I looked confused and said, "I don't really know, it is my first time in this store." The father said sorry, and thank you by the way. I was probably looking so confused after that interaction that I forgot about it and went back to find my mom. But before I could go back to my mom I was stopped by another person, this time a lady. The lady said, "Hello, do you know where the rice is?" I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know where it is as it is my first time coming here." She said, "OMG, I'm so sorry, I thought you worked here, but thanks for helping me." I said, "No problem," and walked back to my mom. My mom didn't even notice that I was gone until I came back. When I came back home after buying the stuff we needed, I went to tell my brother what happened at the store we went to. And he laughed and was like, "Maybe next time you go to the store you could probably find where the rice is." I laughed and was like, "Yeah, I could find out where the rice is." Now every time I go to the store, I know where everything is. I hope you all had a laugh at my I don't work here lady story today. The next story is titled Happy I Don't Work Here Lady Story. I was at a used bookstore, browsing near the checkout. Lady at the register was asking about a book but she couldn't quite remember the title of the book or the author. The cashier knew the author but couldn't quite remember how to pronounce the name. Cashier tried to go find it but couldn't. I had been trying to mind my own business, but I had overheard their conversation and I knew exactly the book she wanted and where it was. I had noticed it earlier, a tiny book sandwiched between a huge book and the end of the bookshelf. So, I went and got it for her. Cashier wanted to give me an employee discount for my purchase but couldn't since I didn't work there. So, she said, "You're a teacher, right? You just showed me your ID, right?" And she gave me their teacher discount. The next story is titled Big Confusion 101. This story is really funny when I think of it, and also the story does have a little bit of background. Backstory. Me, 22YF, one of my brothers, 26YM, and my dad, 53YM, decided to go to this new Costco business that opened about 30 minutes away from our house. I had a Velcro cast on my wrist because I had broken it. At the time I'm writing this story I just had my cast taken off and am starting to do physical therapy for it. It's an actual funny story how I broke it though. If anyone wants to know I'll maybe post it. Now that the backstory is done, let me tell you the story about how I got confused for working at the store. Story. Me, my brother and my dad walked inside the new Costco business store and we were looking at things that the normal Costco doesn't have. I decided to walk away from them to check out the frozen section. I must have had a very confused look on my face because someone decided to ask me where things were. And their spouse was like, "She doesn't work here." I don't know if I should mention that I had a cast on, and also a NWO Wolfpack shirt on with black sweatpants on. I go to find my dad and brother but they weren't where they were standing and looking at stuff. So I went inside this huge walk-in freezer refrigerator at the store. Just as I found them I was tell my brother about what happened earlier. And he's like, "Maybe you should work here." I was quiet, and was too zoned out at looking at all the cheese and did not notice that my brother said that. As we were leaving the big fridge, my brother and dad decided to go straight as I was stopped by another person asking if I worked there. I said, "No I don't sorry." Then the person walked away, and I was thinking like, wow, I just had a IDWHL moment twice in a row but I'm wearing a NWO Wolfpack shirt and also I have a broken wrist. I go to find my dad and brother at the drinks section, and my dad was asking me if I needed any mops because of my cleaning business, and I was like, yes, I do need some. So we go there, and when we went there I noticed 3 workers with a sort of smartphone on their wrist, left, and also they were wearing casual type clothing. I started to put 2 on 2, IDK what the saying is, together and started to laugh at myself that I do kinda do look like I work at that Costco business store. I hope you had a laugh while reading my funny story about me being big confusion. The next story is titled A Karen Trespassed on Our Family Property, Got Booted Out. This just happened about an hour ago. I was just cooking some chicken for lunch on my George Foreman grill when my mother came knocking on my front door. She told me my aunt just caught a woman trespassing on her property. When confronted, the woman held out her phone and claimed she was using her GPS to come and see the waterfall. We have no waterfalls in our area and she was not on any road for a GPS to work on. So BS was called on that. This woman walked down a driveway that was over a quarter-mile long, past my parents' house, my grandparents' house, and then went down to my aunt and uncle's house. What's more, we have no trespassing signs everywhere. But she blatantly ignored them. We then caught the woman as she was walking back up the driveway. My mother tore into her and called her out. And my stepfather had his double-barreled shotgun and told her not to come back. But this Karen nonchalantly brushed us off and tried to play ignorant the whole time. Then my aunt came driving up and we practically had her surrounded in every direction but the road. So she walked up the road and turned onto a nearby street. My roommate and I both recognized her as a woman we saw walking along the road recently. We live out in the hills in Oregon country. You don't usually see people walking along our street as the nearest sidewalk is like 8 miles away. So most people out here drive. We're all of the theory this woman may have been scouting out our property because we've had thieves and drug addicts in the area do that before. And a few years ago some trespassers vandalized our property. There is even a literal marijuana farm next door. So right now we're on guard in case she or anyone trespasses looking for anything to steal later. Edit. I would like to point out that it was not my idea at all for my stepfather to brandish a shotgun at the lady. But he never actually pointed it at her and just held it the entire time. The rest of us were completely unarmed and only wanted to tell her off before she left. But my stepfather came out with his double-barreled shotgun and then did all that. I don't really care for meaninglessly brandishing of a firearm. However, we have patrolled with them in the past when looting was going on in our area. Also, I seem to have worded the thing about the GPS wrongly. However, there are no waterfalls for like 15 miles in any direction of where I live. So there's no way that's what she was looking for. We believe she was possibly taking pictures or recording a video of the area. Small update. My sister has been asking around and the lady who trespassed on our property has been spotted around the neighborhood and has some people keeping a close eye on her. But thus far no one knows who she is or where she lives. The next story is titled Tugged Through Walmart's Tech Section. This happened when I was young, like maybe 10 or 12 or so, but it still strikes me as a weird but amusing moment in my childhood. Nothing immense or intense, just funny in hindsight. Whenever I was brought along to Walmart with my parents, I would just head to the tech section since I had fun looking at the flashing TVs and colorful video game boxes on display. Then I would just stick around until my parents came around to pick me up. Sort of like child drop-off daycare but with less toys and more lights. I was rather tall and mature looking for my age at the time with a bit of a stern neutral expression that my mom said made me look mildly frustrated all the time. Because of that, people would assume I was older than I actually am upon first glance, which is exactly what happened. I was looking at the laptops for some reason, probably imagining how fun they would be to use when I was older, and then this, short, stout, stern-looking woman comes up to me and asks about them. Now the thing is that I had no clue how they worked at the time. I'm still rather poor with them today lol. But I had a habit of babbling since I was a real shy kid and bullcrapping since my conflict avoidance skills weren't the best and interaction with a stranger definitely registered in my young, antisocial head as conflict. So the next thing I knew, I was stuttering out information I could side-eye off of the cards detailing the laptop's information and random lies I could come up with off the top of my head while trying to slowly explain that I'm very much not an employee, let alone old enough to be one. I don't know how much the woman believed, but she was nodding along, which seemed promising at the time. When I finally finished talking, she gave one more nod, said some vague affirmation like, "All right," and then grabbed my arm and dragged me over to an actual employee, and then asked about them computers again. And before any of you say I should have done something at the time, remember that I was stupid shy and had piss poor conflict avoidance skills, so I either zoned out or just went with the flow at that moment. I think I do remember trying to subtly signal something was wrong to the actual employee, or maybe I gave them a vague, distressed expression. They definitely looked at me weird since this short, older woman was holding onto this tall guy around that had to hunch over since she was pulling me down a bit too far. Nothing really came about though. The employee gave her the actual laptop details, and when they finished and left, the lady turned to me, said, "Thank you son," or something along those lines, and left. Sort of an odd day I look back at with amused exasperation. The next story is titled All My Drinking Buddies Thought We Were Colleagues. When I was in my early 20s, I lived in Copenhagen with my two friends, who were both waitresses at a very large restaurant, right in the city center. When they were done working, all the staff would go drinking at the same bar. And I would join them often. This went on for a few years and I got to know the staff of this restaurant well. At one point one of the newer employees asked me something about the job and I answered, "I don't work with you guys, I just get drunk with you." They laughed and that was that. 6 months later, they asked me, "Hey, how come I never see you at work?" I said, "Because I don't work there." They answered, "What, you were being serious when you said you just got drunk with us?" That's not all. I had one of the assistant managers ask me if I could come in the next day to cover someone's shift. Dude, I do not work for you. Oh right. The next story is titled Finally Got to Tell a Junk Customer How Every Clerk Felt About Assisting Them. For a period of time I worked for a New England-based hardware, home and garden store. We had a customer that was the most impolite individual, definitely thought of retail people as lower than himself and treated every clerk with contempt. In this there's me, JC, junk customer, SM store manager. Well, my course had changed and I moved on from said job and was working as a carpenter and was in that location to buy something for a project I is working on. The uniform at the store was a dark green polo and a dark green fleece as a cover-up. I'm a woodsy guy. Almost all my clothes are brown, tan, duck, black, green, and this day I happened to be wearing dark brown pants with a dark green sweatshirt from a local building supply company, dark green with white labeling of said company. Pretty easy to see it wasn't a store-issued garment with any real observation. I'm in the hardware aisle where there are also lubricants for loosening suck bolts and whatnot, which I was looking at. This guy walks into the aisle and I made no notice besides that someone else had entered the space. JC. Clears throat. Me. In my head, that guy sounds horrible. JC. Clears throat again, excuse me? Me. Sorry, thinking I'm blocking the shelving, he needs something off and moving over. JC. No, you're supposed to help me. Me. No, I am not, I no longer work for this company. JC. That's bullcrap. I see you in here regularly. You're even wearing a uniform. Me. This is a insert building company sweatshirt, pointing out the label on my breast. I haven't worked here for almost a year, and the reason I'm in here regularly is because, like you, it's the closest hardware store to my house. JC. Well, you're going to help me anyway because you know stuff about what I need. Me. Nope, in no way is that happening. I didn't get paid enough when I did work here to put up your crappy attitude, and now that I'm not making any money for this interaction, I'm definitely not putting up with it. JC. I'm going to tell SM about this. Me. And she's going to do what exactly? Hold your hand and tell you it'll be okay. She doesn't hold sway over me, or my actions in this moment, so good luck that. JC. I can't believe how rude you are. Me. That's rich. Are you really that self-unaware? Have you ever not actually thought about why, when I did work here, I was the only one to help you? I'll clue you in, it was because no one else wanted to, and I wanted to keep them from your condescension and entitled attitude. Now about this time SM had come around to find me as we have good relationship and wanted catch up. She heard a decent amount of what was said on the way over. As she walks into the aisle, JC turns to her and says, JC. Your so-called former employee is verbally abusing me and says that no one ever wants to help me because I'm a jerk. Well, SM doesn't have much of a filter and responds with, well, he is a former employee and hasn't worked here for nearly a year. And frankly, customer's name, he's not wrong. The look on his face was priceless, and he just harumphed and told her he would take his business elsewhere, which only got a simple, you do that from her. We had good laugh, and the vindication from her coupled with the opportunity to say what I did was fantastic. The next story is titled Karen Tangles with a Combat Veteran, Gets More Than a Handful. I am a 52-year-old man that works as a butcher at a pork processing plant, and I never encountered a Karen in my hometown. Background. I live in a town of about 20,000 people in southeast Iowa. I've lived here my entire life, minus 6 years that I spent in the military, and serving in Operation Desert Storm. Yeah, it's been 25 years. I was discharged in 1996. But it serves a relevant point, that people always tend to mess with the ones they know nothing about. The story. The other day, I was at a neighborhood grocery store, we'll call it HV, to keep anonymity, and was buying a couple loaves of bread, as I had run out. Now, at HV, their work uniform is a red polo shirt, with the company name embroidered on the left breast area in white, khaki, or black pants, and different colored aprons, black for the deli, meat counter, red for floor, and front area, green for floral, and a white lab coat for the pharmacy. I couldn't have been in the aisle for 10 seconds, when I feel a pair of eyes on my shoulder. I turn with a start, causing the woman directly behind me to give me a frown. I'll call her Karen. Me. You know, you shouldn't stand behind people like that, you don't know how they'll react. Karen. I need your help. Stupid me didn't register the way she said that, which should have set off the alarm bells. Now, there are people out there that state their anger is on a short fuse. I don't have a fuse, I have a button, push it, and it's Armageddon. One thing I do have to admit, though, I've been pretty good at keeping it suppressed. I'm usually very level-headed. I mean, I'd had enough violence in my life. I would give anything if I could just live in peace. Me. If you want help, you should ask one of the employees. Karen. I am. Me. Huh? The realization suddenly hits me like a tank, and that she's talking to me. Me. Ma'am, I don't work here. I was wearing a black t-shirt, black cargo pants, black socks, and black sneakers. There was nothing about how I was dressed that said I worked there. However, Karen must have been blind, as well as deaf. Karen. Don't lie to me, you work here. By this time, I can feel me starting to lose control. This insufferable oaf was wearing my patience thin. Me. What about my clothes says I work here? Karen. You're wearing an employee uniform. You need to help me. Now. Oh, bad move, Karen. Now, I'm about 6 feet 1, and weigh about 210 pounds. I'm not a small guy, and my voice is fairly deep, meaning, when my volume goes up, I can get very intimidating. So much so, I've made more than a few scared of me. And, at this point, manners have gone out the window. I'd had enough. Me, matching shrill scream with booming growl. What ducking part of, I don't work here? Do you not understand, you irritating ducking pencilneck? After Karen loses the surprised look on her face, she balls up her fists, and gets this, I'm going to kick your ass look. I see this, and, at the same time, I notice a couple of employees behind me, so I return her look with a, go ahead and try it. Look. Me. Fair warning, you swing on me like a man, you'd better be prepared to take a punch like a man. Well, Karen relaxes her hands. Then, she hauls off, and slaps me across my face, knocking my glasses off, and scraping the bridge of my nose. It did bleed a bit, but, the kicker was that she was laughing. Apparently, Karen must have thought I wouldn't do anything. However, she tangled with the wrong guy. She turns to look at me, and I put her on her ass with a slap across her face. Me. I warned you. Karen decides to play her trump card. Karen. I'm going to have you arrested. I smiled widely, and pointed to the security cameras installed in the ceiling to each end of the ass aisle. Me. Have a nice day, idiot. I grabbed my 2 loaves of bread, and walked up front to pay, while Karen as Frog marched to the office in the back of the store. I found out the next day, the grocery store decided to suspend her from the establishment for 30 days. Sucks to be her. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.